The NFL taking care of some business today, too. Just one day after we reported last night that there will be 2 new plaintiffs added to the Brian Flores race discrimination lawsuit when the complaint is amended on April 8, and 2 new teams that will be specifically named as defendants with some allegations focused directly at the owners of those teams. Don't know who yet, but we will soon enough. The NFL trying to do its best to address the issues that it has with diversity in coaching. And one of the problems is there's no diversity in ownership. A statement issued today, and this is it in its entirety. It's short. It's just a couple of sentences. The NFL member clubs support the important goal of increasing diversity among ownership. Accordingly, when evaluating a prospective ownership group of a member club pursuant to league policies, the membership will regard it as a positive and meaningful factor if the group includes diverse individuals who would have a significant equity stake in and involvement with the club, including serving as the controlling owner of the club. That's good. Makes sense. In theory. End of the day, though, when it's time to sell a team, and this is one of the problems I have with NFL ownership generally, and it really crystallized for me earlier this year with some of the crap that's gone on. There's one characteristic that matters. Do you have the money?
Yep.
Are you the highest bidder? Can you make the current seller even richer than he or she already is? Who puts the best offer on the table? With the Broncos, for example. It's a trust that's selling this team. They have a fiduciary obligation to get the maximum return. Doesn't matter if your ownership group is diverse. Doesn't matter if the people who are buying the team know anything about football. Doesn't matter if they'll be good stewards for the organization. All that matters is, do they have the most money? Until those rules change, until that fundamental reality changes, none of this is going to change. You know what is going to make a difference, Charean? If you have 2 groups that are offering the same amount of money, that's where it's going to make a difference. And here's what's going to happen now. Every group is going to have, and maybe this is the best way for this to be turned into action. They're going to work to make sure, if you want to be a viable bidder, unless you're ready to overspend and offer more than anyone else, if you want to be a viable bidder, you need to have diversity in your ownership group that you put together from the get-go. So maybe that's where this will have benefit. There will be more diversity in these groups. There will be diversity in every group, and maybe eventually there will be a controlling owner who is black. The problem is it's hard to find anybody at this point who's got the money to buy one of these teams. You're talking about 30% of the purchase price that you basically have to hand over in cash. You can only borrow up to $1 billion. So you got to be able to get a bunch of other owners together unless you're going to buy the whole thing yourself. It's not going to be easy. And if we end up with 2 or 3 or 4 black owners, is that really going to solve the problem? If the issue is that the white owners are gravitating toward white coaches, it's not going to solve the problem. It's just going to take a little bite out of it at best.
Well, and that was DeMar Smith's point of having a black owner may not change things. That doesn't necessarily fix the NFL's problem. The NFL has a bigger problem than that, other changes need to be made in mindset around the league, not just with one owner coming in. That's not going to change what's gone on in this league for a long time.
Yeah, and look, here's the bottom line. They have a problem. It's been hiding in plain sight. The lawsuit that was filed by Brian Flores on February 1 is something that has been there for anyone who was willing to, as a practical matter, trade in his career as an NFL head coach. Because we know how this goes. Ask Colin Kaepernick. Ask Brian Flores. Once you decide to stick your finger in the eye of Big Shield, you are persona non grata. They're always going to find a way to not hire you and hire somebody else. And they will spin whatever bullcrap narrative they want to justify it. And there's always plenty of people like us in the media who will pass that stuff along. Sometimes we realize we're being used and manipulated. Sometimes we don't realize we're being used and manipulated. But that's the way it goes. So Flores was the first. And I'm encouraged that 2 others are going to do it. And I hope at the end of the day, every black coach who believes that he was wrongfully passed over for a head coaching job will line up and join this lawsuit. Because you know what, Charean? They can't retaliate against all of them.
That's it.
They can't blackball all of them. They can't shun all of them. So hopefully that's where the truth will come out. And that's why I keep coming back to this idea that on one hand, the NFL is saying, well, we're committed to change. We're committed to growth. We're committed to progress. And then on the other hand, they say, but you know what, that lawsuit that we'd rather open court, no, private arbitration. We'd like to keep our dirty laundry away from prying eyes. You can't have it both ways. You can't say we got a problem we want to fix, but you know what? We're going to fix it on our own. We don't need any outsiders telling us how bad it is or what we need to do about it. That is offensive to me that they're going to try to pull this off. And hopefully we'll keep banging that drum as this case unfolds. I know I plan to.
Well, and thankfully, Mike Tomlin hired Brian Flores too. And he's talked a lot about that this week, Mike, and it was good to see. And he said he didn't want to leave Brian Flores out there on an island. And let's face it, Brian Flores is overqualified for the position he's in. He's going to help the Steelers. There's no question about that in the job that he's in, but he deserves to be a head coach in this league and probably will never get that chance again. But I'm glad, Mike, that he's getting to continue his career with Mike Tomlin. That's fantastic for him and fantastic for the Steelers. It's not so fantastic for Brian Flores, but at least he is getting to coach, which I know he loves to do.
And this is an impressive breaking ranks type of a move by the Steelers, because the Rooney family, very close to the Mara family, and the lawsuit against John Mara, against the Giants for not hiring Brian Flores, and Mara upset and not going to settle in its false claims. And now you got your close friend and common family member, Art Rooney, giving Brian Flores a job. I mean, it just shows you what the Steelers did here was, number one, the right thing to do. Number two, a bargain for them because they got a great coach to add to their staff. And number three, it required Art Rooney to be willing to have some awkward interactions at some point, inevitably. Family interactions, like, why are we, John's kind of pissed, Art, that you did this. I'm sure that conversation is going to happen, even if it isn't conjugated that way. Either John's kind of pissed or John could be pissed, or, it creates issues that people would rather not deal with. I applaud Art Rooney for dealing with it. The NFL also dealing with the issue of lack of diversity in coaching staffs by requiring a minority or female coach to work as an offensive assistant. And, I'm sorry, but I'm glad they're doing this, but the fact that they have to do it, doesn't it just show you how bad it is if you have to require them to do what they should be doing anyway?
Yes. Absolutely, Mike. That's the whole point of you should be doing this. And I don't know if it's many teams do this, but they all should be doing this. And it's obvious that not all of them have been doing this, or they wouldn't have to put a rule in that makes them do this. So it's a one-year deal for whoever they hire, and we'll see how this plays out. But Mike, they've tweaked this Rooney Rule so many times and nothing has helped. It's a mindset. And until you change that mindset, nothing's going to change. And I don't know what the answer is, but they've tried everything. Now they're doing another committee with a lot of outside people from outside the NFL. And now they're trying this. I don't know what the answer is. I don't have the answers, but the NFL certainly doesn't have the answers either.
You know what they should do? If they really want to try to fix this problem and create more opportunities for minority coaches and candidates, at least for now, I'm not saying that this needs to be permanent, but they should at least for now say, hey, you know what? No kids of coaches get employed by any team. Dad's the head coach. Dad's doing pretty well. Kid can go find some other line of work, because this nepotism is one of the things that's causing a lot of these jobs to go to people that don't necessarily deserve them. You can't tell me that these, and I'm sorry. And here's why it happens. It's a very simple explanation. There's two reasons for it, Charean. Number one, owners have their kids working for the team. So it's hard for the owners to feel that they're not being hypocritical if they don't let coaches hire coaches. But that's where you need to be able to sit down with the coaches and say, hey, look, I own the team. I'm going to die someday. I'd rather have my kid take over the business than sell it. So I'm trying to teach my kids how to run this thing. We own it. You don't. You may think you do, but you don't. You work for me, and your kid works for me, unless I say you can't hire your kid. And these owners, I don't know if they allow themselves to get bullied by the coaches or the circumstances or what into thinking that it's not hypocritical. There's a fundamental difference between ownership and being an employee. And secondly, the coaches like to do it because this is the cats in the cradle redemption. This is dad was gone all the time. Yeah. Dad was never around. Mom raised the kids. Dad's at work, sleeping in the office 3 nights a week. And now, all of a sudden, kid grows up. My boys, just like me, I'm not going to sing it, but they, and hey, come work with dad. And we get to be together 20 hours a day now. We make up for all that lost time. I've had a coach explain that to me, that's why it happens. It's an opportunity to reconnect with a kid that you don't really know, and you're together all the time. So I understand why it happens. But every one of those, as long as the coaches are predominantly white, every one of those jobs that go out on a basis of nepotism are going to go to white coaches. So I'm saying it doesn't have to be permanent, but at some point, if they stop that, at least temporarily, it does create opportunities for people who aren't going to have an inside track to the job because they're a DNA match for the current head coach. Anyway.
Well, and it happens all over the league, Mike. You're exactly right. And that is the reason it happens. I've had coaches tell me that as well, that they didn't get to spend enough time with their kid growing up. And now they get to have their kid have time with their kid that they didn't know growing up. And they get to know them and really meet them for the first time, to be around them all the time. So they like that and feel like they're doing a good thing. But it isn't a good thing, I don't think, long-term for the league.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.